And apparently we are live. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A skeptical vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view. Yeah, a skeptical vlogcast from a skeptical point of view. Go figure, eh? To answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because once again I've been thrown into this position while Shujin gets to sit on his laurels. And I sincerely hope that his laurels are nice and frickin' comfortable. And part of this is also to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. Of course, I am your substitute host here for tonight, known online as Dalan. You guys know where you can find me, and kind of running with a bit of an abbreviated panel here tonight, but that's okay, because, well, it is what we have to do sometimes, or sometimes I call it the metric dozen. Anyways, joining me tonight, thankfully, so I'm not alone and having to talk to myself, Brigid, good morning.
Good morning, or good evening, or good something.
Is it still evening?
It's still evening here.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, Indiana is only an hour ahead of me.
Yeah.
Whereas...
It's 11:03 here. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know, that's really weird with the job I do. I'm usually used to dealing with people out east. So when I schedule meetings and stuff, I end up going, trying to take their time zones into account. But then once in a while, I'll get a client from like Washington State or California, or again, even a place like Indiana where it's not that 2-hour thing. And I will mess up that time every single time. I've scheduled myself for meetings at just the weirdest hours. Like I'll say, okay, yeah, we'll make it for 8 o'clock. And then I'll get a call from the guy in Washington. You do realize you scheduled me for 7, right? Oh, crap. Yeah, let me fix that. Anyways, yeah, it looks like we're dealing with a bit of a, like I said, an abbreviated crew here tonight. Shujin is still off on a well-deserved vacation. The guy works hard. He's quite the online personality in many other venues and stuff. So, he needed some time to rest and recuperate and, take the holidays off. And it's not like I got anything else to do except, fill in when he needs stuff to fill in or whatever. You know how it is. How does he keep all this stuff organized? I'll never figure that out. Anyways, and also want to just pop over to our live chat there. I see Felix has already started up. Nice to see you again. Hopefully we'll get a few more people here tonight. Yeah, and of course, as usual, I don't have a 5-minute freestyle because I just can't freestyle like that without, I would do more uhs and ums than Justin Trudeau is famous for. And I really don't want to be known for that. So I think maybe we'll just jump right into it. So yeah, tonight it's episode 292, 2020 Vision. We've always heard the saying that hindsight is 2020. To be honest, though, looking back on 2019, I think we all kind of wish the rear view was either just cracked or just up and fell off. It was a rough year.
Yeah.
As far as politics go, we also lost a lot of people, a lot of good personalities, and people even closer to that. But hopefully we can look ahead. Maybe I'm hoping this year's going to turn a little bit better. And I thought tonight maybe we just maybe look a little bit back on the year, but also try to look forward. Oh, and Princess Luna and Stephanie have joined us. Hi. Well, this is good. So we have a few people, which means I kind of have to behave myself, which is probably a good thing because, yeah. You know how it is. So, actually, Brigid, there's one question that I have that has been bugging me. And I saw a post on Facebook recently, and I typically don't call people out on it, but this one really got me.
Okay.
You had posted something about if you don't like the way things are, try doing something about it, like running for office. That's what I plan to
Yes.
do. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. That is very true.
Okay, I need more content on this. Like, what are the details? What position are you running for?
I mean, it's not anything that big of a deal. I'm going to run for like precinct committee person for the delegation for 2020.
Okay,
And so I'm filing my official paperwork on January 8th.
okay,
So yeah, to get myself on the ballot, and shouldn't be a problem getting that. So
okay. So what does that entail? Like a precinct? Um, is this to do with
um,
elections, or is this actually like a government position, or?
it has to do with getting the delegation for the state Democrats and sending delegates to the National Democratic Convention. When is that again? I'm trying to think. I'm not actually going to the national one, but I'm helping pick someone to get to go to that one. But our state delegation meets in June, and it's also helping to select who's going to be down ballot as far as like the local and state races here.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, it's something. I mean, it's a voice.
Well, and just like Stephanie said, we all have to start small,
Yeah.
to work up. I mean, if this gets you started and eventually, it's going to be, you know, announcing the new president of the United States, Brigid Fitch, I'd be all over that.
I don't know that it would come from that, but from the position that I'm running for now, I've had friends of mine end up getting elected to the city council. Um, had one that almost wound up as governor, but
Wow.
it didn't quite work out. Yeah, but you have to start somewhere.
That is really cool, though. I think it's definitely something. And I don't mean to. I'm actually
Mhm.
stumbling over my words here. I am fully caffeinated, and yet I'm having trouble. I brewed a
It's
pot of
better than
coffee
sitting at home complaining and crying in my beer because nothing's happening.
Well, exactly. And I think while you were talking there, I was just seeing, Brigid Fitch for city council, and then your slogan, "Fuck Mike Pence."
Well, I mean, in some parts of the state, that might actually play very well. It depends. Down here in my county, that would work.
Yeah, I don't think that would actually be probably a good choice for a slogan though, um, unless you want to turn a few people on their ear. I mean,
Not statewide, but for the city county council, it'd probably work because my county has tendency to run kind of blue.
yeah. Well, I mean that's good though. And yeah, that's actually what I was getting at. Like you said about crying people's beer, like we've got a lot of armchair activists, and admittedly, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I barely say more than two lines, on Facebook ever so often. Although I did give out a big one earlier today, and it's largely because me personally, I think I think I'm actually tap dancing on a bit of a minefield, just because of the communities I'm in. Like I'm in a very, I do participate with the atheist community, so to
Hmm.
speak. I'm more of a skeptic. But I know that I don't lean quite as far left as a lot of them. So
Right.
I really do tend to watch what I say, just because these days, if you look at some people who lean left, if you look at them the wrong way, you just give them like the wrong kind of gaze, they explode on you.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm all
Oh.
one for having a rational discussion. And if you can present to me, good points, well thought out points, I'd even dare say peer reviewed points at some, I'm okay to listen. But if you're just going to sit there and balk at me or bray at me or ree at me, if you will,
Hmm.
we're not going to have a very good conversation. I'm just saying. And
Indiana is extremely conservative,
yeah.
in saying that we're kind of not so conservative in the county that I live in is not saying very much. It's probably saying that we're about as liberal as Alberta. You know.
Okay, yeah, that's I'm not
But for
entirely sure what.
Indiana, for Indiana, it's considered not all that conservative.
Yeah, I mean,
That's Indiana standards, but it's nothing like Chicago.
yeah, compared to a place like Ontario or Toronto, as we call it. You know, Alberta does seem to be considered quite conservative, quite redneck, but I would beg to differ with that. I'd say we're a lot more centrist in that respect. We do have a bit more of a rural feel to some of our politics, which is where a lot of sort of the conservatism comes from, because, you know, that's where a lot of it originates. You know, a lot of that, you know, keep things small, keep things contained, manageable is the big thing. I'm not entirely sure.
Lost that.
What's that?
We have completely lost that.
Yeah. And yeah,
this is U.S. has. The conservatives here do not conserve anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a terrible segue, but we are joined by a person who is probably not in the middle of the swamp, but can probably see it from there. UnrenownedTech. Good morning.
Hey, Tech.
It's morning.
It is morning. Good.
It is morning.
It is morning.
And it's no longer 2019, which could be good or bad.
Depends how you look on it.
Yeah,
Mine didn't start off so great.
Oh, another.
No, got a family member in a hospital.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry.
And here's an interesting observation. When it in the ER, as well as graduating from ER to hospitalization, which, you know, is usually a good thing, especially if you're getting treatments and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
They have to ask lots of questions, because so many departments don't have their data cross the streams due to HIPAA regulations and a bunch of other stuff. They constantly have to ask the same things over and over again: date of birth, name, medical history for confirmation of what was reported before, you know, confirmation of medicine taken. So the hospital that my family member's in is very good. Had we gone the other direction in town, the hospital over in the opposite direction has a very bad reputation.
Yeah.
So, you know, yay on that respect. But one of the questions that every single person asked, that when it came to questioning of the background stuff, and I'm not going to give anything away here that I shouldn't, but this one was kind of interesting, because I watched the expressions of the one was a nurse practitioner, one was the nurse for the floor for the room, and I forget who the other one was. And they all had to ask a question: do you have any religious opposition to blood transfusion, or any religious beliefs that would oppose would interfere with the necessity for life-saving fluids, however they worded it.
Yeah.
And I could see each one kind of try to hide a cringe when they were asking the question, and a look of relief when the answer was no. Why? Because regardless of the fact that some people in my family are religious, we're not stupid.
Well, I can actually speak to that a little bit. Going back a couple of years, my first hospital stay, the first of the series, because honestly, it felt like an anthology for a little while there. The first time I was in the hospital, they actually asked me the same question: do you have any, you know, do you want to be visited by a minister? Do you have any particular religious beliefs or whatever? And of course, by that time, I was like well and truly part of the crap crew, you know, and we were, you know, burn the evangelicals. We were that kind of crowd back then. You remember, our salad days. Our golden years, if you can call.
Oh, I don't need to. I don't even need to say burn the evangelicals. People are looking around at Trump, going, "Wait, the evangelicals support him?" I was like, "Yeah, look at the latest megachurch trying to do a party to call together to support Trump, which is illegal."
Yeah, no kidding.
And yeah, so big time illegal.
Is
I mean, they are.
FRF doing something about that?
I think it was the FRF or one of the other groups, but yeah, there's a call to the IRS is being. People are demanding the IRS investigate.
Good. Anyways, and of course they asked me the same questions, and of course I said no. I didn't have any of that. I didn't want any of that. And yet, in that one hospital that I was at, they actually did have a couple of wandering evangelicals. And I don't know if maybe things didn't get communicated to them properly or whatever, but the fact that they were Lutheran kind of made me wonder, like, okay, they knew that I was. I'm not sure how, because I don't think I told them. But yeah, they both worked for one of the Lutheran churches around here. And, they were trying to offer me counseling and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, I've got an infection on my leg. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I also work with, an atheist activist group. I'm not being punished here. But
so get the hell out of my room.
Yeah, well, yeah, but this was kind of one thing though. Like I did not react violently to them. I just kind of went, you know what? Say what you're going to say and get out. Otherwise, you're going to keep coming back here thinking it's your mission to, I don't know, convert me or make me see the error of my ways. So you know what? Just come in, say your piece, and get out. Worst case, I will have some ammunition against you for next time, or I will be able to relate to my other friends and say, hey, guess what I had to deal with?
I would have been so offended.
I was. But again, at the same time, like, it's not like I could get up and walk out. My leg was kind of in a bad place. And then the other time I was in there, I couldn't get more than 10 steps without, gasping for air. So I was kind of pooched either way. Thankfully, the place where I was in there for 2 months, they didn't have any of that. Now, they did have a psychologist who came in and talked to me because I was losing my mind. Yeah. But at least what she was doing was coming from a more scientific background and not from, do you want me to wheel you into the chapel? Which was probably a good thing that she didn't ask, because I know where the chapel is, and it was a hell of a long ways away from my room. I've walked by that chapel a few times on the way to the pharmacy, and yeah, that thing would have been a haul. Just saying.
I would have miraculously gotten up and, like, I don't know, pimp slapped somebody for that.
Yeah, I think I would have too, but then I would have jarred loose the 2 IVs I had in my arm at the time, and they were having a hard enough time getting my veins as it was.
I wouldn't have cared. I would have swung the IV pole at him.
I can just see that now.
I would have too.
Ask to talk to the hospital's legal department. Tell them you're being harassed and you're holding the hospital responsible for the harassment.
Yeah.
Watch how quickly those people get, everybody gets moved away from your room.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I know Kung Fu, which is true, I do. And I'm also from the South and can open a can of whoop ass on you, what's your preference?
Of course, I would
whoop ass.
I might also just open up my PDF version of the Satanic Bible and start reciting passages to them.
Yeah.
And then tell them, by the way, I'm also going to pray for your children tonight. I'll see them in my dreams and communications with Lucifer.
Yeah. Now, to reiterate,
if they were evangelicals, they would run.
Yeah. Now
yeah,
again,
they would.
Now again, to reiterate, the place where I spent that rather large chunk of my life back in 2017, none of that happened. There was absolutely nothing religious except one of my roommates, and I had quite a few of them. They did bring in, they did have their own priest, I guess from their church, who was leading them in prayer. Now, To be fair,
To be
To be
fair.
fair.
to be fair,
To be fair.
this was the young girl who had terminal cancer, and her parents were freaking out.
Mhm.
Again, you know, there's a time and a place to engage to engage in some kind of debate about this. That was not one of those times.
Yeah.
You know,
if-
we've talked earlier
Exactly.
about kicking the puppy. That is not the puppy you want to
Time.
kick.
Yeah.
It's called having tact.
Exactly. And
I'm not going to go up to somebody and tell them, like, look, your religious beliefs are wrong because of X, Y, and Z, whether in the middle of having, I don't know, life-saving cancer surgery.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of the same for me with, you know, I mean, I dealt with a loss this year, and I mean, the priest or the minister that, you know, presided over the funeral, she came to my hometown only a couple, 3 times a year, you know, to hold services, because there's not enough, there wasn't enough of a congregation at the church to justify her moving there permanently. And as my mom's health deteriorated, she would actually make personal visits to her home, you know, to talk or lead in service, whatever. And no one in my family is overly religious. But again, there's that tact. I mean, they don't know I do this. And they don't know some of the other stuff I get into. So, you know, and it's, again, I'm at a church attending my mom's funeral, hearing a lot of stuff and talking with a lot of people. And of course, you know, the whole God's thing comes up and whatever. And again, there's a time and a place, and that's not it.
No.
Right.
And yeah, just like Felix said, there is such a thing as tolerance in the name of comfort. And boy, I learned that one a lot in these past couple of years. You know, there was you know, there's a lot of people doing a lot of YouTubers anyway that are doing a lot of these, you know, best of or highlights from this past year. Like I think Subverse News did a coverage of all the protests that they actually were on the ground for around the world, like Hong Kong, France, etc. One guy, the Russian Badger, he did the best of his 2019 gameplay videos, which is honestly, that is frickin' hilarious. Just
Badger, mushroom.
yeah. The way, honestly, the way Badger does, like he does these Let's Plays, they're part game review, part streaming, part Let's Play of different games. And he always brings on like a crew of 3 or 4 other people to do these multiplayer games, and they have a blast. And then, of course, he takes the video, he edits the hell out of it, throws in comments or quips or whatever. Look, a lot of these multiplayer PvP games, I don't play and never will. But watching some of these highlight reels, I am just dying from laughing so hard, especially what this guy gets up to. Like he has 2 Warhammer 40K videos out there. They're absolutely hilarious. But to my point, one guy I follow he's a gentleman by the name of Wizard of Cause. He actually did his decade in review. You know, kind of talking about where his life has been in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And that really got me to thinking about my own sort of decade in review. And I just looking back, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, considering where I started and where I am now, damn, what a ride. That's all I can really say. You know, at the beginning of this decade, I was like newly divorced, living with 4 other guys in a big house, trying to figure out, okay, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And now here I am 10 years later, another failed relationship under my belt, one that I'm currently in a relationship. I finally got my own place. I got a decent job. You know, things are not perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better than they were. And yeah, it was just weird to just stop and think for a moment and go like, wow, a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, I wish I could say that my decade started out a lot better and it ended up kind of crappy. I went backwards. I'm making less money. Husband's making less money.
And now you're running for a political position. So
Yeah,
I guess you finally decided to say, you know what, screw this. I'm doing something about it.
I'm gonna just do what I can.
I wish you the best. I really do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I should, do okay here. I mean, it's just, not that big of a town.
Speaking of political stuff, there was a young man that I used to know, that I used to converse with on a mostly weekly basis, because he worked at a coffee shop I like to frequent. I'm not going to name the place. I'm not going to name the guy. And very young gentleman, and definitely played for the same team, as the saying goes.
Okay.
And he and I got talking about back in 2018 and the very beginning of 2019 of the crap that was going on in the world. And he was making play for political office. He got into the political office. And it's a very low-level office. And I asked him, I said, so what are you going to do now, once you get into that low-level office? Is that where you plan on staying? He goes, oh, hell no. I'm going to work my way up, and I'm going to bring people with me who want to make it so that people can love whoever they want to love, as long as it's a consenting adult. That anybody has the right to marry anybody. That's a consenting adult. That we don't just go out and say, sorry, my religion trumps your rights, but everybody has the right to their religion, and so on and so forth. A lot of the stuff that we talk about being reasonable, this man was the epitome of reasonable for such a young man. And all I could think to myself is, I really hope that politics does not jade this young man, that he stays true to this idea and this ideal through his entire life, because we damn well need more like that.
I fully agree with that statement, actually. Have you talked to the guy recently, or did he kind of disappear?
No. Or no, he's still in his office. He's still doing political things, but I don't reach out because the minor office that he's in right now does not affect the area that I live personally.
Oh,
so
I see.
He's not one of my representatives. He just happened to work in a coffee shop that happened to be nearby where the area he works in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, all that typing, I just added a comment in our general chat.
Okay.
That's a lot of stuff. I could never run for politics, not after this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Evan could have or would have in my position, but he was good at it.
Yeah.
Likable. He was charismatic.
That's the thing about
like BFFs.
Yeah, that's the thing about the net, and the preservation of everything. Back in the day, if someone said something about you and you stood up and owned it and said, you know what? Yeah, oh God, Dennis Miller had a perfect one for this about Bill Clinton. Says, yeah, I inhaled and I drank the effing bong water as well. What are you going to do about it? But the thing is, if you stood up and owned your flaw or whatever and said, okay, you know what? I acknowledge my past, but look at what I've done since. I've done the road to redemption. These days that doesn't work because, a YouTube video or an offhand comment that's caught on video, or, some jag off with a cell phone just happens to catch you having a really bad day, which, let's face it, it happens. that stuff stays forever. And, they want it to go viral. They'll chop it up and cut it out and take it out of context so they can get dim clicks and dim likes, and to hell with you. And then 10 years later, you're trying to do something good, and suddenly one of these Riris opens up a website and sees, oh, look, so-and-so made this comment 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares if he's rescued 50 children from a burning building in the past year? He's evil. And it's like, no matter what you do, if you apologize, well, you can't apologize enough. If you don't apologize, well, then you're, insert the ist or phobe of the week insult into your label.
I'm just going to put a link here. There you go. I'll tell you everything you want to know about, dude.
And actually, just like Beth said, a former guest requests that a video be removed as it was allegedly affecting their new career.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like, okay, I can kind of understand where, like myself, being on a show like this and then going down to a place, somewhere in the Bible Belt or somewhere where it's religious, and people would see some of the stuff I've said. Yeah, they'd probably be a little ticked off, and I'd probably have to, I don't know, do something, like do some serious damage control. Or if we're all rational, just say, look, this is what I believe. This is what I think of a lot of the BS that's going on down there. But I am still a professional. I am still, a skilled worker at this job, and I'm capable of doing all of this. Are you professional enough to separate, your beliefs from what we're going to do here? I mean, and that's actually one of the things they talk about when we do travel is, don't initiate conversations about politics or religion or anything. And if someone on site starts talking about that, try to remain as neutral as possible. And I've actually ended up in a couple of conversations like that where they've asked me, like, are you religious? And I just say, well, and all I tell them is I'm Lutheran. And that's the matter drops right after that. They can wax philosophical about whatever. And again, I'll sit there and I'll listen. But I'm not going to engage on anything about this. I mean, I was in San Francisco not too long ago. And once in a while, the odd Trumpism came up. Remember what I said before about tap dancing on a minefield?
Yeah.
I was like, yep, tell you what. I'm going to be out of here in a couple of days, so let's just keep it friendly, shall we? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you'll remember when I first started the show, so many years ago, gosh, what, 4? I think it's been 4 years. The place I was working at that time, if they had known I was doing the show, then I would no longer have been employed there.
Well, Brigid, I don't know if you were here when Heretic Woman first started on this show. Were you here for that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I'll never forget.
It's her fault that I got here. She brought me on.
Okay, fair enough. I remember, and we can actually go back. I don't know the number of the episode off the top of my head, but I remember she actually showed up on the show with a black wig, a big, almost like a masquerade mask, like the kind you'd see at a fancy ball or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like she did everything she could to conceal her identity for the same reason that if anybody ever found out. And Beth is even saying even on Beyond the Trailer Park, I guess she wore the mask. But eventually she just dropped it all and said, yeah, screw it. I can't remember what the turning point was, but I think it was the next week is when we finally saw she finally dropped the mask and everything. But it is kind of too bad that, for shows like this and where, like, well, at least down in the States, you're exercising your right to free speech, or that, that government can't force you to do or say anything. But then to actually have to live in that kind of fear or whatever. And I mean,
Well,
yeah,
fear, it was more than just a fear, though. It was a law was passed to where they could do that. Fuck you, Mike Pence, because he passed that law. And and Beth will probably remember because I had come on, to their show to talk about what they were passing.
Yeah.
And, it was some kind of, religious restoration act or some bullshit. But what it came down to was any kind of religiously owned entity, which could be like a Catholic hospital system, a school, anything like that, could require not only their employees to follow the precepts of their religion, but it also extended out to government contractors, your utilities providers. All of them would also have to abide by the precepts of that religion, which was way overreaching.
Yeah,
I don't see how you could require government contractors to do that, but that's the way that the law was written.
Well, and one thing about this show,
bullshit.
Yeah, like one thing about the show that's really given me some insight is this whole thing about states' rights down in the U.S. We have something kind of like that up here in Canada, but for the most part, we do follow sort of federal law in a lot of things. We have some provincial laws, but they're not quite as I get the feeling that the Fed can issue a law for the entire country down there, but then one state can go, I'm invoking states' rights and screw you in a lot of cases. And that was one of the big educational points I got about differences between the U.S. and Canada in that respect, is that we don't have that. I think we have something like that, but it's not quite as rigid. Either that or we're just a lot more easygoing. I don't know.
You're nice or you're polite?
Yeah, until you get us on the ice and,
Well, hockey is serious.
I was going to say, beware a Canadian who drops their gloves because you're in for an ass kicking. I'm just saying.
But one thing that stuck out in my mind, though, was when that river was first passed. Now, it did get walked back some because, we had lost millions of dollars in the state and people were boycotting and things like that. But before it got walked back, actually had a team lead tell me, and she did not like my lack of religion or anything. She didn't even know what I was. I just kept it to myself. But she was Pentecostal and basically believed that if you were not a Pentecostal, you were going to hell and all this other stuff. And so she felt free telling me on a conference call with other people involved that I was going to hell because, I was not, blessed of the Spirit and, speaking in tongues and all this other crap.
I was gonna say these are the same people that try to speak to you in a language that sounds like you just put an electrified live wire up their ass, right?
And she would ever, if something happened and we got off work 2 hours early, then she would start speaking in tongues. And I was like, what the? Cut the shit out. You were such a poser.
Posier.
But yeah, I felt free the week after this law was passed that she could tell me that I was going to burn in hell, and so was my daughter. And I could not do anything but just stand there with my jaw hanging on the floor, and I couldn't say anything. She helped write my evaluations, and I couldn't say anything back. I was not allowed to if I wanted to keep my job.
Yeah.
And then after that got dialed back, then she started acting all apologetic stuff. And it's like, no, you done burned that bridge. I worked with you for 11 years. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I know what you really thought about me all this time. She just felt she was free to say so.
Yeah.
And for a couple of weeks, she was.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate in that I've only ever really dealt with. I can actually count how many very religious people I've ever dealt with on one hand. One of them was she was a good friend of the family, and I didn't really know that she was like that until one day we were at church, and of course after the service we have the coffee, or they call it the fellowship, which was my excuse as a then kid to be able to drink coffee because my parents would never let me drink it at home, which would probably explain my current addiction, but that's another story entirely. Anyway, so I was sitting with my parents, and she came up and was talking, and apparently her husband actually had to work that day. So she starts talking, and all of a sudden I start hearing, the praise the Lord or God's will. Now, but the thing is, to hear that in a conversation in, what I considered to be a typical Lutheran church, I thought, okay, you're kind of skirting the line of crazy there, lady. This was actually what I was thinking, is that, okay, you're getting a little off the deep end. Ran into her at Mom's funeral, and thankfully she kept a lot of that tone down, because like I told one of my other friends there, I said, I'm sorry, you're not really seeing me at my best.
Yeah.
But the other two people I ran into were actually out here, and they were representatives of a church that was called Victory Cornerstone. I've mentioned these guys before. These are those nut bars that, somebody like Seth Andrews would talk about.
Are they like the four square gospel, whatever that is?
Possibly. These guys they don't have a church of their own. Like they're not, I want to say accredited, but I think I'm using the wrong term. They're not any one particular denomination. Their ministers,
Independent?
Yeah, their ministers are not ordained. They're not seminary trained or whatever. They're just loudmouths with the gift of the gab. Not that we know anybody like that.
I got the calling.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And again, when I first met these guys, we were at that service as favors to a friend. This was me and my wife at the time. These friends of ours were going to this church, and instead of a baptism, they were doing what's called a presentation of their baby. Which I guess, again, because they couldn't baptize for whatever reason. Now that I think about it, I wonder if communion was orange crush and potato chips. I don't know. But after the service, we ended up talking to the pastor, and I use that term loosely. And again, it got into that whole, well, praise the Lord, praise Jesus, thank you, God. I'm like, oh my God, get me out of here. Like, I just kept looking at my wife like, can we go now, please? Otherwise, I'm going to smack me a bitch.
Yeah.
It was just,
I had a bunch of Pentecostals on my mom's side of the family, and they were interesting. Of course, they all thought we were going to hell because we wore makeup.
Yeah. I think my sister, I think her first husband was part of the Pentecostal family. And just correct me if I'm wrong. These are the ones where the women can't cut their hair and the men have to keep their hair short, and there's all these other weird rules and stuff.
And have to wear dresses, can't wear pants, don't wear makeup.
Okay.
And segregated, men on one side, women on the other.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess they were Pentecostal then. Because I just remember hearing about some of these rules, and just like, and again, my naive mind at the time was thinking to myself, they're fucked up, or that is so fucked up. Like, if you want to wear your hair short, like, and of course I hadn't heard the story of Samson at the time, and I thought, okay, so are they trying to channel Samson for the women, for, strong female lead or something? I don't know. Like I said, it just, my mind got twisted in so many different directions at that point.
Well, I think their point was that the hair is the woman's crowning glory and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but as someone who was married to a woman who liked to have her hair long and who was in a relationship with another woman who liked to have her hair long, and having to listen to the complaints about having long hair, I just don't really understand. Like, okay, fine, it's your crown, it's your thing. Then can you stop complaining about how much it costs to get it washed and shit?
Yeah.
You know, my
And
ex-wife.
it can get really heavy too.
Oh, I can imagine. You know,
If my hair gets too long, I get tension headaches from it because I have such thick hair that it pulls on the muscles of my scalp. I can't have really long hair. It's painful.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but I mean, I've got pretty thick hair too. Mind you, I never let it go. I never let it get
Well, it
very
probably
long.
never got down to your waist though.
No, definitely not. I have a hard enough time.
Was.
I have a hard enough time not looking like one of the Beatles after after letting it go for too long.
Yeah, used to have hair down to my waist, and then I went from that to like shaving almost all of it off. Just whoop.
Jeez.
It felt so much better.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh, wow. We actually got into talking.
Way sidetracked.
Well, not really. I mean, we did kind of reminisce a little bit about, things that have happened in the past little while. Over the past few years, talking about Deb and, some of the other things that have happened to us while we've been on the show. And
Yeah.
I don't know, thinking about looking forward now. I mean, you're running for a public office. Let's just call it that.
I'm going on ballot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Hey, I'd vote for you if I could.
Yeah, and that's a sad thing is a lot of my coworkers probably would too, except they're not in my district, so they can't. But that's because of where I live, They don't live out where I live. But that's okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm just working on getting Joseph just popped in, so I'm going to.
Hi, Joseph, and he can talk about Notre Dame
Yeah.
burning. That was a big thing last year.
Okay, let's see if I can. So we can add him
I
to
don't
the
think
call
we
here.
can talk about anything burning right now with Australia.
Well,
I know,
yeah,
right?
that's ongoing. That started last year and it's still ongoing. But
Yeah.
the Notre Dame thing was pretty memorable.
Okay. Okay, so now just bring in Joseph in. Good morning.
Bonjour.
Good morning.
Okay, so just give me a second.
Where I'm at, bonsoir or bonne nuit.
Bonjour. It's early in the morning.
Yeah, c'est matin.
C'est le matin. C'est très tôt le matin.
What you said? I'm kidding.
I think we got it figured out here. There we go. All right.
Are we live?
We are live. We've been
Yes.
live for almost an hour now.
Okay. Sorry
Yeah.
I'm late.
No. No worries, man. Yeah, we just been sort of, reminiscing a little bit.
Oh, about?
Well, just, it's been, here it is, the first show of the new year. We were kind of looking back on last year, thinking to ourselves, what the fuck happened? And yeah, we just started waxing a little, I don't know, not really waxing poetic because I can't rhyme for shit. But and I don't know if you know this, Joseph. Apparently, Brigid is getting into politics.
Yeah.
Oh. In what? Well, you probably okay.
I'm running
She's
for-
learning to
for-
suck blood.
Yeah. Precinct committee and for state delegate and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, I'll be waving pom poms from here in France.
See-
I have to go file my paperwork January 8th. So, yeah.
And you see, and look at that, Bridget. You now have officially not just an
Official pom-pom.
international cheering committee. You've got an intercontinental cheering committee.
With
you know,
pom-poms.
yes, with pom-poms, so the rest of your opponents can just stuff it,
And if we attach a rocket to his back, it'll be intercontinental ballistic support.
Oh, there it is. I can just see BuzzFeed now. Brigid Fitch, the intercontinental ballistic rise to glory.
With pom-poms.
Well, with prune juice, it'll be.
Oh, come on now. Let's not get into chemical warfare here, dude.
Well, you know that it is organic, right?
Oh.
You're welcome.
Well, if I can fly over a few fields, I can do some crop fertilization.
Oh.
Yeah, see, he's offering to be useful.
Wow. We went from talking about the good old days to basically toilet humor.
Hello.
Poop jokes. Hey, poop jokes are funny.
Oh.
It gives a whole new meaning to eau de toilette.
Oh.
Oh.
So apparently she can give as good as she gets. Of course, we all knew that.
I've been practicing my French, okay?
That's not fun.
And hey, Beth, if you're still listening, if you're heading out, have a good night. TDTF, I see you there. Welcome to the madhouse.
So
you know,
what was 2019 for you?
well, for me, it was
If you could sum it up in one phrase.
Mulligan.
Trump.
I want a do-over.
Oh.
Oh no, I mean, well, for
What
me,
was the
there were some gains, but there were a couple of really deep personal losses
Yeah.
that I just
Oh.
as soon not have to deal with. But stuff happens.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if you looked at my Facebook feed, but I summed it up in one image. I don't know if I can share it here.
I haven't seen it, but
Midgets?
Yeah, I'll need to see it.
I was going to say dumpster fire, but that's more of an American thing.
Midgets.
Well, okay, I'll try to share it here.
Midgets dancing around a dumpster fire? Yeah, for any first-time listeners, if you thought I was politically correct, oh boy, were you sad. Who the hell's been feeding you them lies?
Flaming catapulted incontinent midgets, maybe.
Okay, again, we're getting back into this. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I had something in 2019. It was both a loss and a gain
Okay.
at the same time. It was a huge loss when we lost a heretic woman.
Yeah, that was massive.
That was very massive. That was personally, devastating, I think, to all of us. But I took it really, really hard because she had been, a really good friend of mine. But I turned that opportunity into a chance to actually go up to Kitchener and, meet her common law husband, fiance. I don't know what you would like to refer him to, and her niece, and got to spend a week with them. And, so I lost a friend and gained two. And I'm really glad that I got to go make that trip,
Yeah. And definitely, Joseph, that about sums it up. How's your 2019 me, a very blood-covered person smoking on a cigarette, and I could just think what the caption was. Oh, speaking of which, so at work we do a gift exchange, like a Chinese auction, they call it. So we all buy gifts that would be suitable for everybody. And then, we pick the ones we want. We can steal from others, whatever. What I gave them this year was, it was a card game. And I swear it could have been made by the same guys that did Cards Against Humanity. It's called, It's called What Do You Meme?
I have seen that game.
Yeah. It's so apparently you've got like picture cards and then you have to caption it with, the cards in your hand.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah. Honestly, I wish I'd bought it for myself as well. But then again, I have the bigger, blacker box of Cards Against Humanity. I'm looking at it right now. I don't think I've actually ever used these cards, because every time I go to a party and I bring that with me, 5 other people have brought their decks. Because we all have sick and twisted senses of humor, and we all end up laughing our asses off by the end of the night. Although, I don't know if you guys have seen this on Facebook, one of the ads, Cards Against Star Wars.
What do they have against Star Wars?
No. Okay, one of the examples was, after the Battle of Endor, the rebels celebrated the destruction of the Death Star by blank, and one of the cards was getting an erection in a suit of Stormtrooper armor.
Ouch.
I'm like, I must have this game. I just can't afford it right now.
Painful.
You know, I mean, if you're into that whole chastity thing, getting an erection in that suit of armor might actually work for you.
Oh, Jesus.
Ouch.
I'm just saying, you know, don't judge others.
You're right.
That sounds awfully confining.
We should not kink shame, folks. That is not a bad. That is not a good, nice thing to do. You should never really shame anybody who's into things that you might find
Different.
skin crawlingly bad.
Hey, as long as it's between consenting adults and not physically, illegal.
I suppose.
Well,
Yeah.
let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Can't hold it back. Well, if you're in a tight suit of armor, you can hold it back.
Well, isn't that part of the appeal of it? You know, the whole denial thing? Just saying.
Yeah, and then you peel off the armor. And,
Oh,
why is the armor sticky?
my mind is going to really bad places. And and here I was worried that we wouldn't have anything to talk about. I had brought up a website. I was talking to Brigid about this. Tonight I started a new, I don't know if you could call it, well, it was a new gig in Second Life. Like, you guys know that Shujin does DJ shows, or he DJs shows in Second Life almost every night now. I'm actually getting up there in terms of count as well. I just started one tonight, and I nicknamed it Saturday Night Second Live, because Saturday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to try to do a little bit of, not exactly Saturday night comedy, because I can't do solo sketches yet. But, some music, maybe a funny commercial or a parody commercial, and then followed by the weekend update. If you guys are, if you're familiar with Saturday Night Live, you know what I'm talking about. Except I try to make my stuff a little bit funnier. SNL's kind of forgotten that, so I'm trying to bring it back. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, someone threw at me the homepage for the Darwin Awards. So I'm going to be leaning pretty heavily on that one, because even though you could, and you could be looking at stuff that's, years old.
Those are so funny, though.
But shit like that it's timeless. A story about somebody using a double-barreled shotgun as a club on the windshield of a car and subsequently blowing themselves in half. It doesn't matter if it happened in 1999 or yesterday.
It's still pretty doofus.
Yeah, the person is still a dumbass for doing that, But yeah, I did bring up a site. It was like the top 40 funniest headlines of all time. And again, I was thinking of bringing it up, but we've actually been talking so much here. I did want to have a couple of them, though. I'll just read them off, though. I won't switch the screen over. And I'll put a link to it in the notes too, because I think some of these you would have way too much fun with it.
Oh, I would.
Well, like,
I love parks, so I know that I would.
Yeah. So this is from a website. It's called Board Panda. And
Yes.
Yeah, and number 1, homicide victims rarely talk to police. Or number
I
two.
love word Panda.
Or number two. We hate math, say 4 in 10. A majority of Americans. Let's just let that one sink in a little bit. Or breathing oxygen linked to staying alive. Statistics show that teen pregnancy drops off significantly after age 25.
God.
And the last one I'm going to do, China may be using sea to hide its submarines. You know, sometimes the jokes just write themselves.
Yeah, buddy.
How do people like this get jobs? I don't understand.
I honestly don't know.
But they do.
Yeah. One of the other ones, I think there was one that somebody posted on our Discord link about the school. Let me see if I've got it here. Is this it? No, that's not it. I've got so many browsers open right now. It's not even funny. Now, not as bad as Heretic Woman ever got, but you know, I would definitely say a close. No, I'm not even a close second. You can still count the number of tabs I have on one hand.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm working on it. No, this was one that I think Shujin posted this about school places, the Satanic Temple 7 tenants in a classroom.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it had to do with a debate, I guess. And I missed that show that we did of this one. Like, didn't you guys do a show once comparing the 10 Commandments to the 7 tenets?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Yeah, I think
And
it was.
asking which one would be more moral.
Yeah, and apparently this school allegedly had that debate.
Sweet.
I'm just thinking here. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess a couple of weeks ago, this classroom voted on a subject to debate. And many people suspected a certain person behind the vote. Let's see. Yeah, it was an Oxford-style debate against the 10 Commandments and the tenets. And apparently the tenets won. I'll look at, and actually, where was this school? Massachusetts. So this, oh my God, this actually happened at MIT.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, sorry, it wasn't MIT, but it was East Middle School 7th grade social studies class.
How the hell did you get MIT out of that?
Well, no, because the opening of the article said it was home to Harvard and MIT. So I'm like, oh wow! And then again, I blame the fact.
Pretty hefty of them to do that, though.
Yeah, I blame the fact that I only had one pot of coffee today. Okay, don't judge me.
Well, you need to.
Yes, apparently. But no, I was just reading over the tenants to review them, and I have to admit, I kind of like the way they go with this. Actually, is this? Yeah, here. Yeah. So they actually now have the 7 tenets of the temple displayed in the classroom.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Although,
I like it.
but Shujin did put he put an interesting thing up about that. Because the students asked for it, would that still be a violation according to FFRF or? Actually, it wouldn't though, because it wasn't mandated that it be done. There wasn't, like, the school didn't say that you must have this. The students just said, "Hey, we want this." So it was a matter of choice, I would think.
Well, I mean, there's nothing prohibiting student-led things, I don't think.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking, is that I don't think it wouldn't, like, let's say if the Ten Commandments won and they put them up, because it was just, and it's just in the classroom. It's not school wide. They're not like in that Kentucky school where they have to have that, what was it, In God We Trust or whatever that they were mandating?
Yeah, that has been mandated in several states now.
Yeah.
To the schools. Yeah.
So I don't think this would relate to that, because it's, because again, it was voluntary. It's not a law, and maybe eventually they'll take it out. I think. I don't know.
Here's hoping for the next administration.
Yeah, really. I mean, we're already having problems with the In God We Trust license plates now, to where if you don't want that, that is the default one. And if you want something different, you have to pay extra for it. Or they're selling little stickers where you can cover up the In God We Trust on it, but you have to pay for the stickers.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well,
Not like that's being forced on you or anything.
I was going to say, you got to kind of give them a nod for, capitalism. They're trying to make a buck off it, at least.
Well, if you object to it, trying to get money off of it, which is just horrible. I've got a customized license plate, so people around here call ones like mine the atheist plates. Derisively, of course.
Well, of course, because, the scarlet letter A used to stand for adultery, but I think these days it stands more for atheist these days.
Oh, yeah. But since I don't have In God We Trust on my license plate, that makes me a horrible person.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, it could work to your advantage. Because if, someone talks to you about, how they're going through life and how, they're having a hard time, whatever, you could just pat them on the shoulder. Like, if you really don't like them, you can just pat them on the shoulder and say, "I'll keep you in my prayers," which is about as, that's about the level they would give. So,
Oh, yeah.
It kind of works both ways that way, I think.
Just remember, behind every little bless their heart is a teeny tiny FU.
This is true.
Thank you, Seth, for that one.
It's true. And I'm from the South. I can verify that is true.
Yep. Yeah, hypocrisy, thy name is religion. Near as I can tell. It is kind of one sad thing about, you've got like things on Facebook and YouTube. If you go down sort of one rabbit hole, things kind of, they sort of tailor things to you, and you almost forget some of the other places, some of the other, videos you may have seen, or other Facebook topics you may have seen.
Uh-huh.
I've really lost track of a lot of ones that I used to really laugh at. Like, there's one, the Utah Outcasts. You ever seen those guys?
Yeah. I've done their show too.
Oh, okay. Well, cool.
Yeah.
I used to love on, how they used to rag on Ken Ham all the time. I mean, I'll admit he is the softest of soft targets. Probably even softer now. Probably even softer now due to all the wood rot that's probably settled in on that freaking ARC project of his. Because, apparently, God mandated Tyvek inner insulation and other forms of lighting, but he couldn't afford, a couple of hundred gallons of, frickin' Thompson's water seal for the outside.
Yeah.
But I used to catch their videos like, once or twice a week of them, ragging on numbers and stuff. I haven't seen those guys in a long time. Like, is it just because they've fallen off my algorithm, or are they still around, or?
I don't know. Come to think of it, I haven't heard anything from them in a while either.
Yeah, but the only one I really see these days is Bionic Dance. And then, of course, there's, Beyond the Trailer Park. Yes, I'm doing a lot of shameless plugs for that show tonight, it seems.
Yeah. Well, we're on hiatus until January 6th, and then we will be back.
Oh, so Tuesday.
Or is it January 5th?
Or-
What?
No, sorry, Monday.
Yeah, Monday,
Yeah.
January 6th at 8:30 p.m. Central, 9:30 Eastern.
There you see, you got that out of the way so that I don't have to hound you for the shameless plug at the end of the show.
Yeah.
See, I'm good that way. Yeah, Fearless, I don't know if they're going to outlaw money anytime soon. I mean, and I find this very interesting. One of the other things, again, because I'm a little more, I do watch a few other things, but a couple of things that do get into my feed are shows from the Daily Wire. Just because I watch a lot of political stuff, and that just happens to fall into it. And I find this so interesting is that they talk about the news, they kind of go through the headlines and they give their own opinions, but then they start getting into things like family values and religion. I mean, the head of the Daily Wire is a devout, I wouldn't exactly say he's an Orthodox Jew, but he's up there anyway. Like he actually wears the yarmulke when he's broadcasting. Yeah, Ben Shapiro.
Okay, I know who that is.
Yeah, if you don't know the name yet. But there are a couple of other shows in there. And again, like I said, I actually listen more to it for the news side, because even though they are of a very conservative bend, they are still very critical of the Orange Man. They actually will call him out when he's acting like an idiot, believe it or not. But when they start, just what Fearless said there about the outlawing money reminded me of the whole In God We Trust thing, and that how these guys are actually still playing into it, saying, well, it's on our money. Like,
Yeah, who put it there when?
Yeah, exactly. Who and when was it put there? They cleverly... maybe ignorantly, I don't know, but they leave that out. And it's like, I can actually call you on your bullshit right there, pal. So like, I listened for about maybe the first 20 minutes, like, okay, now we're getting into the stuff that you're just it goes from news to apologetics, and at that point I just turn it off. Or I listen and just roll my eyes if I know I'm not going to get a headache from it. Okay, and Stephanie's saying that the Utah Outcasts is still going strong. Okay, good.
Good.
I'll have to reintroduce them to my feed. Again, I like shows like that where you get a couple of people talking and laughing. I have no idea where I get that kind of inspiration to want to listen to stuff like that, or even participate. Any of you guys have any ideas?
I don't know. I mean, David Packman shows up in my feed quite a bit, but he actually follows me on Twitter and I follow him.
Oh.
So maybe that's why.
Cool.
I don't know. And he sent me a friend request on Facebook, so I accepted it.
Nice.
But I'm not getting stuff from his personal page, and I'm getting stuff from his show page or whatever.
Yeah. Well, probably.
But his stuff is pretty interesting. I don't know that it's actually funny, but I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more of a.
He's on current affair topics and things like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't listened to him yet, but I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, he's got a nice speaking voice.
Yeah. Again, just as long as you can, if you can present your argument without too many ad hominems, and if I can verify that what you're saying is true, or what you're saying is as true as you can make it, okay. But if I start sniffing that there's a little bit of BS there, a little bit of apologetics or something like that, I'm sorry, you're going to lose me as an audience member very, very fast.
Yeah, did you try listening to a couple of his episodes? Because he's brought up just some different points that I'd never thought about and went, those are actually really good points.
Yeah.
Or really good questions.
Actually, him and Tim Pool have had a couple of, well, they've had at least one interview with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I watched part of it, and Tim says, yeah, there are things I disagree with on him, but I still respect him. So, yeah, maybe he's worth checking out.
Yeah, I don't think we would ever get a chance of having him on our show, but yeah, I mean, I like to listen to him though.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that should be something we should look for next year, is to try to get more people. I know our time slot's a little wonky, especially for people out east, because I mean, right now it's 20 after 1.
Yeah.
Out east, and it's even. I was going to say it's even earlier for you, Joseph, but not so much.
I mean, not unless you have people that are devoted night owls, that are up till 4 or 5 a.m.
And
why are we on this time slot again?
I don't know.
Because Shujin wanted to run counter to Coast AM.
Okay.
That conspiracy show used to have Art Bell on it.
Oh God, which I used to watch. I used to listen to that.
Stuff. Yeah.
Because when I used to deliver papers, I don't know, they weren't running that show live. I think it was like the second recording or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I used to listen to that on AM radio when I was delivering newspapers. And
because that was all that was on that late at night.
Oh, and I used to listen to some of that. I was just like, what the entire hell am I listening to? It was like,
that's why this time slot.
It's like, where is this shit coming from? Actually, that was something I found interesting. You guys know who George Schwab is, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Geologic podcast. I don't know if he still does it, but
yeah.
Well, no, I know he does it, but
the podcast.
Yeah, there was a show called No Agenda, and it was run by a guy by the name of Adam Curry, who used to be an MTV VJ back in the day.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, but you see, for me, Curry's rise to fame was when he created Pod Show. Now, Pod Show was one of the first free podcasting hosting services that both Shujin and I took advantage of back in the day. My original version of Outcast and my other podcast I was doing was hosted there because I didn't have to pay anything for it. But then they became another company called Mevio, and that they changed a lot of their business formats, and eventually Shujin stuff and mine both got axed from it because we weren't multimedia. We weren't video. We weren't
Mevio.
Mevio, Mevio.
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
Right.
Now, one of the other things they also had as part of the thing was called the PodSafe Music Network, which was people could upload their music and it could be played and advertised on podcasts without worrying about royalties or any of the other stuff. And some, even some big ticket artists would post some of their music for free so that people could, distribute it themselves. And it was funny. The PodSafe Music Network actually outlasted Mevio by about 10 years, I think. But anyways, Adam Curry used to do a show on his own hosting service called Daily Source Code. And it had nothing to do with computer programming.
Oh.
But a lot of good stuff, a lot of funny stuff, a lot of good music. But I could start hearing the tinfoil hat stuff starting to come through. And eventually he started this show called No Agenda. And it's total conspiracy theory stuff, apparently. It's like completely off the wall, Area 51, aliens, all that stuff. And somehow George Schwab's show ended up as part of No Agenda, and it's kind of like it's the rational nugget in this great big pile of conspiracy shit. I don't know if he still does it. I don't know if it's still part of it, but I remember him talking about that, and I thought that was hilarious. I have no idea where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. It was because of the whole Art Bell thing. That's it.
No agenda. Sounds like a sounds like a good name for an annex show for No Illusions.
Yeah, no, there's a show I haven't listened to in a long time.
Oh, I'm pretty faithful.
Yeah.
Out of my list of podcasts, it's one of the few.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Joseph, let me pick your brain on this one because there was a reason I kind of stopped, and it was because the show was suffering from the same thing that I think a lot of so-called atheist shows are suffering from, and that is
Which one?
The Scathing Atheist.
Oh, okay.
Is that just I kind of got I got tired of them like constantly dipping into politics. I mean, I understand that it's a big thing down there, and I understand. I mean, I watch what's going on from the outside, and thankful that I'm on the outside. Make no mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty soon, it just sort of became, to me, it became the Scathing Orange Man Bad show. Is it still? Do they still dip a lot into that, or have they?
I don't know. I've never really listened to them that much. I did used to listen to their Skeptocrat podcast a few years ago.
Well, and that one was political because it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah. But, when a lot of that sort of bled over into the main show, which was, where they were supposed to be doing dick jokes about Pope Francis and Pat Robertson.
And screwing puppies. Puppy
yeah.
rape. Yeah.
God, puppy rape.
Well, it's a mixed bag because they don't, they do dabble in politics and.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've kind of gotten away from some of that stuff too, and started listening to true crime.
You remember? You have to remember. I'm over here in France, and it's actually a good source of news. I mean, for what's going on in the U.S. for me. So
Yeah.
You guys are probably hearing about it all the time anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
But I am growing increasingly tired of people making fun of people. I don't know if that's...
Okay, when you say that, you mean like sort of the whole call-out firebrand type stuff, or...
No, like ha ha ha. I'd like to see people going down the rabbit holes a little farther, just like, Trump's doing stupid stuff. But I mean, Trump's in office for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically, it's at the source of everything is this sort of credulous state of society that allows shit like this to happen.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the spotlight turn a little more in that direction.
So a little less covfefe, a little more, how did we get here? And how do we, and more importantly, how do we fix it? Real answers only, please.
Yeah, and Trump and, even the entire history of the Catholic Church. And, these all, they had their success because of the state of society.
Now, I don't know if you would find this one interesting or not, Joseph. It's a new podcast. It's only got 6 episodes out, but Michael Moore is doing one called Rumble.
Oh, really?
And it's going into some of the psychology of how we got here, why this happened, what can we do about it, kind of a thing. And it's pretty good.
Can you toss a link to that in our Discord chat, Brigid? I'd like to add that to the show notes afterwards.
Oh yeah, please do.
Sure. It's I found it on Spotify, but you can probably find it on any podcatcher thing. It's free. But yeah.
Actually, what's it called?
But it's not argumentative and combative and stuff like that. That's just what he named it, was Rumble, and it's actually very good.
Yeah, let's see.
It's got 6 or 7 episodes out now. It's new.
Yeah, I've got a link to him on Stitcher, so I'll throw that in
Weekly,
the.
monthly? Does it come out every week?
I think so. I think he's planning on doing it weekly.
All right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything from him in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it just started up, and yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, it's actually pretty good, and it's not, inflammatory and combative. It's, it's actually a good listen.
And we've said this a lot of times, and I don't mean the imperial we. I mean like Shujin and I. We've all said this about the act of the statesman.
Mm-hmm.
You know I don't want to say the gentleman, but I think it's the best way I can come up with it. It's just basically stop yelling and screaming and pulling your hair out about trying to get your point across, and actually try to deliver your point across and be articulate.
Have a conversation.
Yes. Which is really weird because we've always said that, in the atheist community, we've always said, we want to have the conversation. And a lot of us still think that, but there are also a lot of people on kind of this side of the fence who now say that if you want a conversation, you're a right-winger. I'm like, when the hell did that happen?
Or a socialist.
Yeah, exactly, Tech. It just seems these days if you actually want to sit down and have a calm conversation about topics, suddenly you're a subversive. You're an istophobe. You're conservative. You're a socialist. You're a communist. You're a terrorist.
You're just because people who say things like that, they're clan-minded.
Yeah,
and
you're anything other than part of our tribe.
Yeah, so thou shalt not question.
Yes, it seems we're seeing sort of dogmatic thinking on all sides now, and we're all kind of stuck here in the middle going, what the hell is going on?
If 2019 has brought me anything, and it's pretty depressing, but I don't know if you've read my blog, but I've spent years analyzing thinking about the leader-follower mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it just constantly comes back to that just one question. What you think, is it you who thought of it, or is it somebody else's idea? Did you come to that conclusion on your own, or are you just, I don't know, towing the party line? Because there's...
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Joseph. I just saw a thing that Stephanie put in the chat about something called Skylar Fiction. So I went looking for it, and apparently it's a YouTube channel. And the first thing I see is, "Welcome to the Skylar Fiction Show, where Christian apologetics comes to die. All hail Raptor Jesus." Like, okay, yeah, we're. I'm throwing that one in the show notes as well. That just sounds too juicy to not overlook.
That sounds like I'm going to have a few things to catch up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new one.
But it is, and going back to podcasts, it is, all the quote-unquote atheist podcasts, yeah, it is, the repetition is, it is beginning to get tiring, because basically what we're doing is just hashing and rehashing the same behavior pattern. There's only so much we can say about it.
Yeah, and truth be told, when I first started out with this whole thing, of course, one of the first things I saw was, the religious tropes. Or is it theistic tropes? But you know what I'm talking about. We even had the Scathing Atheist guys on here to talk about it one night. Or we get into theistic tropes about, well, where does morality come from? And blah-de-blah this and blah-de-blah that. And
Can
it's
somebody please explain to me what the latest apologist thing seems to be? The
uh,
laws of logic. What the
yeah,
fuck is that?
but that's the thing is that what happens when a theist runs out of the ammunition that we've already broken down 1,000 times? They reload and try again.
Yeah, they come full circle and just
Yeah,
call it something different.
and it's like, yeah, and then even then, they get the first three words out, and we already know that, yeah, you're just feeding us the same line of bullshit that you were feeding us yesterday. You just put a fresh coat of paint on it, but it's still the same bullshit.
And it's always the same thing repeating. I mean, between us, when we're having a conversation, our interest, basically what we're doing is sharing our experiences, in an effort to make life better for each other. If you, and that's where morals are. But if you're trying to have a conversation with an apologist, his goal is to basically make you surrender your self-governance and become a clone of them. And I mean, it goes beyond religion. I mean, it's like you can see this in like the Communist Party. You can see this in people who buy certain brands.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same everywhere. I mean, it goes beyond religion. I'm almost getting tired of, why go into the details of, whatever the Bible does or does not contain, or the truth of it, or it's basically going back to what it was. The phrase I'm always using is "survive by imitation," but it's also something I call "just take my word for it"ism. So, don't listen to yourself, listen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing repeated, and a good lot of it, it's depressing as hell, but a good lot of humanity survives just that way. If I obey this guy's rules, then I'm going to be comfortable, and I don't have to think.
Well,
Yeah.
one question I've got is, would it not have at some point provided some type of a survival advantage or evolutionary advantage?
Yeah, that's what childhood is all about, because we have no other choice when we're small and defenseless, and prefrontal our prefrontal cortex hasn't developed yet. I mean, we're not even capable of reason. But in the upper echelons of both the economy and society, and government and all that, the fight seems to be to maintain us in that state. And that's why the evangelists love Trump so much, because he just maintains the stupid, and that's exactly what they want. A credulous public, the state of credulity, the state of non-thought, non-questioning.
But there are some evangelicals who are getting tired of his crap, though.
Yeah.
Was it, I can't remember if it was Christianity Today or Christian Post, but one of those two publications all came out in opposition of Trump and his behavior and continued support of him. And he was not happy about that. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but those are two very big publications that a lot of Christians read.
It's funny, both the evangelists and Trump, they have, like, Trump isn't at all religious. I'd even say he's atheist. But
I think, I mean, he's amoral and he's not religious in the least bit.
no, But for him to maintain, if he wants to stay in power, he needs a lemming public, and if the evangelists want to stay in power, they need exactly the same thing. That's why they're friends.
But I think
So-
some of them are starting to turn against him. I think that there's going to actually be like a sort of a small coalition of the GOP that will probably rally around Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney is like, this is not acceptable, and condemning his behavior. And I think you may have a few true believers who may line up with Mitt Romney on that.
Mormons?
Not necessarily Mormons, but people who are actual true believer Christians that are not just trying to get a Supreme Court nominee, but actually have some conviction. And
Yeah.
are just going to say he's gone, a little too far, and we just can't abide anymore. Especially if, I think if John Bolton comes out and testifies and a whole bunch of crap comes out, then I think you're going to see more people side with Mitt Romney.
Yeah. Again, though, that does hinge on, what we talked about the last show with impeachment is it even going to make it to trial?
I don't think they even want it to. They just want to. They're almost making.
I don't think it has to go to trial. I think if they can get John Bolton to testify, just to the House and get that public, I think that'll be enough, because John Bolton knows where the bodies are.
Like, I've heard it said that Trump actually wants a Senate trial. He wants it to happen because he seems to think, and I don't know if he's read or not, but he's under
The fix is in right now.
Well,
So yeah, he wants it to go.
Yeah, and he's also under the belief that by doing this, he's actually going to completely humiliate and devastate the Democrats, because he truly believes that, his shit don't stink.
Yeah. He'll be like, I'm exonerated. I'm not guilty. Yeah.
Which he'll probably say in every rally right up until, even after he gets booted out of office, he'll say, he'll still be around rallying, saying how innocent he is.
Well, I've seen more rational conversations in a fucking kindergarten schoolyard. But I mean, basically, that's what his defense is going to be. I am rubber, you are glue.
Yeah. But as long as he's not going to get a fair trial, then there's no reason for it to go to the Senate at this point. And we know he's not going to get a fair trial because Mitch McConnell has said so.
Yeah, and
They're playing by the House rule. I mean, the White House rules.
The thing is, too, though, is that McConnell could be just posturing as well.
He's not.
Oh, okay.
He's just as corrupt.
Okay, so yeah, if he's just as much of a dickbag as everybody else, then okay, fine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would. Yeah, because a lot of people would say, like, oh, that's just he's just being hyperbolic. But no, if he actually does have that conviction that, yeah, if this does come before me, I'm gonna burn it with holy fire, to borrow a Warhammer euphemism.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, there's really no point in trying to. There's no point in bringing it. Yeah.
Right.
But he knows his audience, because I mean, to the credulous, the people, those who dare not question, I mean, just saying something is enough to make it quote unquote true. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if they get John Bolton to come out in public and say what he knows, I think that he knows a lot of dirt. He knows everything going on.
Yeah.
It just needs to come out.
Well,
which is why Trump does not want Bolton to testify. That's why they keep blocking all the subpoenas.
Yeah.
But what can John Bolton bring against Trump?
If there's anything in there at all about anything, he has access to all of it. If he's tried to intimidate any other people or any other governments, or tried to do deals with other governments, Bolton knows all the details.
But don't they have enough on that already with Ukraine and all that?
If there's more out there, Bolton knows all of it.
I mean, already Ukraine is more than enough to.
In some people's minds, it's not.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
But if
Imagine,
it's
imagine if
several
it were
countries.
Obama doing this.
Oh, Obama would have been impeached a long time ago.
Yeah, but how can this state exist? I mean, even in politicians. I mean, this is what's so depressing for me because I mean,
it's so corrupt. The GOP right now is all about their money, their interest, their power, and that's all they care about is power.
Hey,
and
folks, this
what
is the
gives
Utah
them power is again this fucking credulous state. I mean,
it's money.
if that would happen here in France, well, look at the protests going on here over just like small things like retirement reform, but it just wouldn't stand, and in any country probably almost any other country in the world. And it's funny, we're just watching all this from afar. I mean, it's like,
yeah, it's like how could this happen? But it is, and nobody's in the streets, and they should be.
Yeah, I mean,
I've gone to some protests myself and have like 12 people show up.
Yeah. And what happened to for a while there was what was that movement against Wall Street?
Occupy Wall Street. Yeah, I went to protest for that too.
That really got co-opted. Yeah, it also got co-opted by a lot of other ideologies. Some of the journalists that I follow they actually got their start with Occupy Wall Street. They've actually noticed that even while they were there, the overall statement was overrun by people who had like just really radical ideals and basically co-opted the protest for themselves. Right. And I think that kind of deflated a lot of it as a result. And of course, waving out the money.
Politics? Identity politics?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, not just that,
tore itself apart.
But some of the protests were actually infiltrated by law enforcement that were dressed up like protesters and initiating, vandalism and things like that. And you could tell who they were by pictures of their shoes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, these are law enforcement people that are dressed up in black and smashing windows trying to agitate. Yeah. That was nuts.
I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Oh, it wasn't surprising, but it was heartbreaking. Yeah. And one thing that really floored me is, I was out there with my little protest signs, chanting and stuff like that, out where I live. But there was an active duty Army person that sent me a message and said he would have no problem coming down here and shooting me in the head because I was participating in these. Yeah. That was scary.
Well, I mean, these days, it seems for a lot of things, violence to people is the answer. You look at, shit. I saw a thing about the rise of Skywalker. Apparently, because I don't know if you guys have seen it yet or if you care to see it, because I'm about to drop a major spoiler.
Okay.
Okay.
Drop.
Okay. Kylo Ren dies. Okay. The main bad guy from the new trilogy dies at the end. And a lot of fans who wanted Rey and Kylo to get together, and have this big shipping romance thing, were sending death threats to the director of a Star Wars movie because it didn't end the way they wanted it to. So,
Jesus, that describes in a nutshell, like, like the state of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the state of a lot of things. And actually, Joseph, this one plays even better. Do you remember the Twilight movies? I know I'm digging into some serious pop culture BS here.
But I've never seen one. So.
Okay, no,
You know what they are.
But you know what they were, right?
You basically
Okay.
Sparkly vampires.
Yeah.
Sparkly. Okay.
Well, sparkly vampires and bare-chested werewolves. Now, here's the thing. And this was my ultimate facepalm moment for that era of pop culture that a lot of people should be desperately trying to erase mentally with alcohol or other hallucinogens. Do you remember what was it? Team, oh God, what was the vampire's name? The main character vampire. Do you remember his name?
No, I didn't see the movies.
Damn
I just know about them.
Oh, okay. But anyways, so pop culture was divided between Team Vampire and Team Werewolf as to which one would the main character, the girl, who would she end up with? And it got pretty rabid, just like the song by Ronnie James Dio, the mob rules, right?
Mm.
Here's the thing. By the time these movies had come out, the books that had the answers had already been published. Let that sink in. People are speculating, oh, she's going to be part of team this. No, she's going to be part of team that. It's in the book, you morons. This is the mentality, and honestly, that's where I think it all began. It's like, yeah, we're going to form all these different tribes, even though the book has already been out. And if you were as much a fan as you claim you are, you'd already know how this ends. It just,
it's so fucking useful for those who actually control things, because, if we get us fighting amongst ourselves, then we're not going to be looking at them.
Yeah, the myopia of the masses.
Like, somebody said to me before, these people harking back to the 1950s and all that.
Yeah.
Or certain times where our economy has actually been successful, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, but before there was no crime and there was less crime and all that." And
no crime. I got two words for you: roaring 20s.
Yeah. Or Toulouse. But anyways. Yeah, but harking back to times in our economy where racism was relatively low and the economy was going better. I'm not going to say, but people will point out, times like that, and I'd like to point out to them that, there wasn't the wealth disparity that there is now.
This is true.
And it's always at times when racism is high and clanism is high, there's always wealth disparity at the same time, because it obliges those lower down on the scale to resort to actions. Just to survive.
You're depriving people of the ability to secure their base level needs. Again, kind of going back to Maslow's hierarchy, you're taking away their ability to satisfy their physiological and security needs. And if you keep them there, you're going to frustrate them. And then in that depth of desperation where they're looking for anything that could potentially get them out of that situation, they become your attack dogs.
Well, it's really fucking simple, because if you're in a position where having 3 part-time jobs is not enough to
Yeah.
make ends meet, and you've got this guy offering to, I don't know, run a package across town for you for $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna do?
Yeah. Or, yeah, we understand that you're having these problems, but you know what? It's not your fault. It's the fault of that gentleman with the pale skin over there, who's driving that car, because they have privilege. You must go now attack them and make them feel bad so that they will give you money so that they don't feel guilty anymore.
Oh, it's about to get a lot worse too. I was reading a few days ago that Trump is all on board about making it, even a bigger crime to be homeless and really punishing people homeless for being homeless.
Yeah.
And
rig the system and then punish the people who are victims of a rigged system. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
and if people
Just
are
like God of
homeless
the Bible.
and if people are homeless and they have nowhere to go and nowhere to sleep, you're going to make it illegal for them to sleep outside. What are they supposed to do? There's nothing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to criminalize it. And I guess lock all those people up. So
Yeah,
there we
in
go.
for-profit prisons. So yeah.
Right,
Oh,
for-profit prisons where they're forced to work for nothing for these companies.
Slavery.
Yep.
Exactly.
But they're not going to call it that, are they?
No, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I've
Or
said
they
many
might get
times
paid
before,
some pittance like 8 cents a day or something like that. But it's a brilliant business plan. Because you'll get essentially labor and you'll actually be undercutting people that we outsource to in third world countries. So, instead of having to pay somebody 50 cents a day to make wherever, I can't think I'm so mad right now. But instead of, these sweatshops overseas, you can pay, a U.S. person 8 cents a day or nothing because they're in prison. And
and if it's part of if it's part of like a prison mandated work sentence, then you know what, you got to make those Nikes because that's part of your penalty. That's part of your punishment.
Mm-hmm.
It's good thing I don't wear Nikes.
Yeah, why pay sweatshops to make them when you can force it over here for free?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to be happening. So yeah, it's going to get worse. I don't know what it's going to take to get people out in the streets, but something's got to give.
Well, I've talked a lot about it before. It's that, now that the panic or that the hysteria over Trump getting elected is, well, I'd like to think it's over, and that, it's looking like he's going to get that second term unless something like monumental happens.
Yeah,
I think
you're
he's
right.
going to get a second term.
I think he will have a second term.
Well,
I think.
Look at
how are we going to swing that?
No, Joseph. Look at the Democrats. I've not seen anything in terms of a platform. I've not seen any kind of answers to things about the economy. Plus, the economy, from everything I'm hearing, is actually doing quite well in the U.S. right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
stocks,
wait,
yeah.
not for some people, but again.
No, because, you're gonna have to dig a little deeper there, because when they say the economy is going well, who's it going well for? That's probably the upper, probably 5%.
You're
Stock
right.
market.
And what they do is spread it out as if every American is making an average.
Yeah, and that is how they're presenting it.
That's a lie.
It is, but you as we all know, you spin a
say
lie.
An economy is only going as well as its lowest.
Yeah,
the stock market is doing really well and paying out the rich people more money. That's what they mean.
But the other thing too is that
the GDP is not actually up.
Yeah, and also most of what I've seen, at least for the Democratic leadership race, has been
They're in disarray.
That's putting it mildly. I mean, it's been a feeding frenzy to the point where unless you're part of, the Orange Man Bad group or that one group that calls themselves the Squad, if you're not with them, then you're automatically a conservative and you're going to be kicked out of it anyway. And if you're going to go into the 2020 election with the platform of vote for me because Trump's an asshole, you're not going to win. And unfortunately, I think that's where they're at right now. Plus, even when a leader for the Democratic Party is finally selected, they have got a metric butt ton of healing that they have to do across their party lines to make sure that they're a cohesive unit.
Yeah, I think Trump is going to get reelected.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
But I hope, my only hope is that this time, like if and when that happens, that the Democrats are going to look at this and go, okay, Orange Man Bad didn't work. What can we do? And actually sit down and think and come up with a cohesive platform.
Joseph, I think he will lose the popular vote by more than he did last time, but I think he'll still take the Electoral College. That's what I think is going to happen.
Now, if he does that twice in a row,
with the Electoral College,
then I think there's going to be there will be reform after that.
With Bush
because
Jr.,
it's happened every time.
Yeah,
it's happened every time except for once.
Yeah.
Bush Jr. also, he took the electoral and lost the
popular vote.
Yeah.
So the only time that it hasn't happened in the last several years was when Bill Clinton won.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
every time a Republican has won since Reagan, they've lost the popular vote and gotten the Electoral College.
Yeah, because they don't play fair.
Right.
And that needs to be questioned because, I mean, again, Trump is a result of Trump voters.
Mm-hmm.
That state of...
But it's also the result of so-called Clinton voters saying she's going to win anyway because Trump, who in the right mind would vote for Trump? Well, you got your answer.
Yeah.
Right mind or otherwise, he's the one sitting in the Oval Office. So...
Yeah, I predict he will win again.
Yeah, and if ever there was a time to really get out there, now is the time. Like now, 2022 and 2024.
Yep.
Like the armchair activist, I think that time is coming to an end. It's great to sit here and philosophize about it, but unless you're willing to get out there and strike your name on that, or, strike the name on the ballot, or attend or contribute if you can in some way. Or, like Brigid's doing, run for office. Like, now is the time. Because no one else is going to do it. Nope. And if you don't, you're going to get another Trump. But, I've been crowing that one since 2016, and, well, look where we are now.
Yeah. I will do what I can, but I am only one.
Yeah, but that's... What you're doing is exactly what you have to do, because, I mean, a democracy should be from the bottom up, not the top down.
Yeah. Yep.
We should be, we should be electing the best members of our community, or whoever decides the best, to represent us. I mean, and it all starts at a grassroots level. I mean, here in France, for example, we've got each arrondissement has their representatives, and yeah, basically it's the community's foremost members who are elected by the locals, and so on up the scale.
Yeah. And I bet you I will take vacation time too, and either register some people to vote or drive them to go vote.
The voter turnout has not been so good here. over the past years, and we're kind of seeing the same trend as the U.S. People just kind of becoming disillusioned or giving up hope. Because I mean, like the front, the National Front, which is the right wing, they've been rising in the polls.
Yeah.
We never quite make it to power, but it's enough to become alarming.
Oh,
And
yeah.
things are going towards fascism here.
Oof, that's not.
Yeah, but the entire world over.
The world is going to fascism.
Yeah, and
It's
even
everywhere.
Japan and because things are getting, the wealth disparity is getting so much that things are becoming difficult for a good lot of the economy, the lower parts of it, and people who just don't think for themselves don't know what to do. They just want to vote for the quote unquote right authority that's going to make everything comfortable for them again, without doing any of the work itself. Because I mean, when you give up self-governance, you also give up, in a way, your own responsibility for your own survival. You're not responsible for anything. You're not going to think about it.
Yeah.
Because we're just too fucking used to people providing for us. You know, if you follow these X and X rules, then you're going to get X and X rewards. All dished out on the condition that you don't question.
Well, I think we should.
And I mean, we really have to have a conversation about principally what I'm most concerned about is, I'd like to see prices come with profit margins. We have to talk about, profit, what it actually does to an economy. And profit is basically taking more than you've given. How could an economy survive like that?
Yeah, that is getting into a level that we definitely have to get into something a lot more. It would have to be a bit of a deeper dive, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a conversation we have to have. That's all I'm saying. I'm not obliging ourselves to have it now.
Yeah.
And a few minutes before the end of the show.
Yeah, but I'm thinking we should actually start looking at wrapping up here. I didn't want to. I mean, with so many shows like, what are your New Year's resolutions for 2020? Yeah, screw that, because we know we're just going to make a bunch of platitudes that aren't going to happen. So, call me a pessimist. I'm going to say I'm more of a realist, but instead of a resolution, I just thought I'd do a round table here and see what's in the foreseeable future for everybody here. Like, let's, we get to the end of 2020. What do we see? Like, what do we have plans? Do we have things that are like actually going to come to fruition at some point? Again, I don't want to call them resolutions, but like, what's in your horizons? Tech, I'll start with you. Assuming you're still awake.
Uh-oh.
We
lost a tech.
Yeah, I think he might be out. That's okay. Okay, Brigid, what does 2020 hold for you?
Oh, goodness. Well, hopefully trying to do my little, protest, civil action, whatever it is that you want to call it, that, the best that I can, and look for other employment for more money, hopefully. Hoping that my husband finds a job this year. That would be great.
Okay. Joseph, how about you? What's on your horizon this year?
I'm starting a new job from the 13th.
Oh, right on.
With the Institut Physique du Globe de Paris. basically, did I tell you about this before? No.
No.
Oh, okay. Basically, what they do is monitor earthquakes the world over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to be in charge of their monitoring network.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Government job.
You know, say what you will about government work. At least there's an ounce of security there. I would like to think.
Well, it was rather unexpected. But I have a friend of mine working there who told me about the position and thought it'd be perfect for it.
So you would be more. I'm assuming you'd be like the IT end of it, just making sure that the systems are still running.
I think I'm going to start there, but my work may extend to also database maintenance, things like that.
You know, not a bad gig to get into. I mean, we're looking for a DBA at my company right now for our hosted system. I think they're looking for someone a little more on this continent, however. Otherwise, they definitely would have dropped your name.
Oh, well, that's quite heartwarming to hear. But yeah.
Although you could have had fun screaming at some of those guys in French, though. I think I could just hear one or two of them right now going, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Who do you think he is?
Well, as for myself,
just one thing for 2020. My drum beat is not. I'd really like to see people's the drum beat become more skepticism than atheism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shots fired, but I mean.
That's fine.
I'm seeing that, like I said before, I'm seeing the same thing happening all across society, whether it be in the economy, whether it be through religion. It's fucking state of credulity that has to end, and we have to become accountable for our own actions, and we have to hold those we elect accountable. And the only means to that end is skepticism. Because, I mean, if you're not going to question, you're not going to think, then...
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Well, for myself, I still plan to keep working at the job I'm at because I actually am enjoying it, despite some of the stressors I've had. I have been working on a little bit more of a self-discipline thing on my end. I just recently set up a writing desk, if you will.
Oh, I just saw that this morning.
Yeah, so and I actually gave it a bit of a field test this weekend. Sat there and did a whole bunch of editing and rewriting on a book that I'm trying to get into shape to get published. But before that, there's going to be a recording of it. Looking at starting another podcast for myself. Will something come of it? I hope so. I just, my biggest hope is that, I mean, this is my last weekend of vacation. Monday morning, I go back to work after 2 weeks off. I just hope that I can sort of keep it a little more compartmentalized now. Kind of leave work at work. And when I come home, it's home time. I don't want to think about work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually get into, getting this book done, getting my next one worked on. I say that every year, but this year is the most I've done so far in terms of moving forward with it. And I want to keep moving forward with it because it's after this weekend, after doing the work that I've done, I really felt good. Kind of had that nice little endorphin boost that just said, yeah, you accomplished something. Have a cookie. So I'm hoping to keep up with that.
I'm thinking of that the scene from Family Guy. So, how's that book coming along?
Yeah,
you're writing a book, are you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Some of the stuff I was going over this weekend with it. Now, the story is set in like the far future, like kind of the Star Trek level future, and some of the technology that I was talking about like they have a thing. The character has a it's like an ID card, but it's so much more. And I talked about how, you know, it had, you know, the ability to summon a transit vehicle and had the mapping ability and all of this. And I'm thinking, as I'm looking at what I was writing, like, I've got that. It's called a smartphone, you moron. So I've had to go back in and do like a fair bit of reordering to, you know, dare I say, modernize a science fiction book. You know, figure that one out. So, yeah, I got some grief over that recently. Like somebody telling me that editing means cutting stuff out. I'm like, not necessarily. You know, that's why they're called director's cuts. But yeah, labor of love that I want to turn into something for everybody to enjoy. So that's my plan. Anyways, I think it's time we got out of here. I want to thank you guys for putting up with me tonight as a substitute host. I think this is going to be the last time for a while. I believe Shujin will be back in charge next week, so we can get back to doing what we were doing before.
What's he doing this week? Why wasn't he here?
He's just been taking a very well-deserved vacation. Poor guy's been he's been working hard this past year, you know, doing what he does. He's also had to deal with some personal stuff. I don't want to get into it. You've probably seen it on Facebook, some of the stuff that he's had to go through. So, I haven't,
because I've had shit of my own to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we're all dealing with shit. You know, I've been happy to step in. I know last week we didn't because it just would have been Brigid and I. Although
we were like,
yeah, we were trying to think, what should we talk about? I want to bring everybody else. I want to have more people. But I will say this. At least on this show, as far as I know, Brigid, this is probably the most you've talked on these shows in the past, 6 months. So I'm calling that one a personal achievement.
yay!
It's like, yeah, stick it, Tribble. Look what I can do. Anyways, so yeah, once again, thank you guys for putting up with me. I do appreciate it. My blood pressure is about to drop now that I'm done being the host of this show for a little while. I'll be more than happy to be just part of the peanut gallery once more.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to do a quick little transition here for everybody else who's watching this. And this is our contact info for the show. Of course, our website where I host the audio version of the show is over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. You can leave us a voicemail or a text at area code 869-428-8854 or 869-HCTV-854. I'll put that in the text next time. We have our Facebook address over at facebook.com/holycrapthevlogcast. And you can tweet at us at holycraptv. I'll let that sit for a second and go back. Yes, I'm having fun with OBS. Don't judge me. So, again, from all of us and everybody who was in the open chat, Stephanie, Felis, TDTF, who else was there? Beth was there. Princess Luna was there. This other guy was on here. Shujin Tribble. Yeah, he was on there too for a little bit.
Who's that?
I don't know. He kind of popped in, you know, threw a couple of zingers our way and then went to bed. So I don't know.
Troll. Crap by troll.
Yeah.
Wait, dribble who?
Yeah, exactly. You know, we'll figure out who he is eventually. But thank you guys for stepping in tonight. I hope you guys had a lot of fun, had a few laughs. And until next week, you guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and above all, have a good week. And until next time, as always, good night.